Around 10 years ago, I made a decision that I wanted to be wealthy. I did what anybody that wanted to be wealthy would do. I Googled it. And so when I Googled it, I was completely overwhelmed with the amount of information that there was available on this subject. I was overtaken by the information, and then I became consumed by it. I went down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out exactly what I would have to do, a step-by-step process on what I would have to, on what it would take to get to this certain level of income and freedom and status. And when I went down this rabbit hole, I realized that there is a ton of information out there about this. It's actually not a secret at all. Implementing these steps are difficult, but the steps are simple. During my journey, I ran into a gentleman by the name of Earl Nightingale. And Earl Nightingale had one particular speech called The Strangest Secret. When I listened to this 19 minutes of audio, it might be a little bit longer, but the 19 minutes is what I focus on. It completely blew my mind and changed my mind in how I perceived success and life. There was one particular quote that he had in his speech, and it goes like this: "The only thing that makes a man are his thoughts. The rest you can find in a horse or a pig." And to me, that was like, oh my goodness, that is probably one of the most profound things I've ever heard. Because when you think about it, although it may look different, horses and pigs have the exact same parts as us. So the one thing that separates us from them is our mind. And once I got that information, it made me realize that wealth, success, and happiness is an inner game. It's all about your thought. And that is the focal point of Earl Nightingale's Strangest Secret. Today, I will be bringing you a modernized version of The Strangest Secret, which was released in 1956 or 1957. 67 years later, The Strangest Secret still has over 1.5 million views on YouTube. And that's just for the highest ranking channel. There's several reposts that have hundreds of thousands of views. If this information wasn't valuable, people wouldn't be responding to it like they are to this day. And like I said, in today's episode, I'll be bringing you a modernized version of the key points of The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. My name is Quayson, and welcome to the Quayson Mosley Podcast, where we talk about personal development. We just do it for the culture around here. And today, we will be covering The Strangest Secret. So who is this Earl Nightingale guy? Well, he's a podcaster and a radio host from the early 1900s. And he was known as the Dean of Personal Development. The subject matter of his radio show was predominantly about personal development. And he did his job well. Said his information still resonates almost 70 years later. His work has inspired countless individuals, countless successful individuals. It has inspired me. And as somebody that has the privilege of being able to speak to millionaires consistently, I could tell you all my millionaire buddies know about Earl Nightingale. If you don't know who Earl Nightingale is, no worries, you're in the right place. I'm about to educate you on one of his greatest speeches, one of his greatest podcast episodes, The Strangest Secret. What is The Strangest Secret? Well, the strangest secret is that we become our dominant thoughts. You become what you think about most of the time. Now, it sounds simple, but it's extremely profound. And once you realize this, it will change your life. But hearing the words is a lot more different than processing the information. You are what you think about most of the time. Rich people have predominantly rich thoughts. Angry people have predominantly angry thoughts. You become what your dominant thoughts are. Now, luckily for us as human beings, we've been blessed with the ability to change our thoughts. And that's what the strangest secret is. Now, we're going to break down how you could use this information to your benefit in the modern era. So these days, we're constantly surrounded by information, whether it be the news, social media, friends, TV. There is so much information that's been enhanced, especially by the internet, which means we're constantly getting all types of information. And this information that we take in subtly programs your thought patterns. I think it's interesting that through all the personal development studies I've done, I realized that people become the things that they think about based on the information that they have. And then you start to see things that you focus on. We've all had this happen when we get a brand new car. Your reticular activator goes off and then you start to see this new car everywhere. Matter of fact, it's happening to me right now. I'm about to make a change in my car, and the car that I'm getting, I see it everywhere. What's interesting is that the algorithm works just like the universe. So whatever you focus on in the algorithm, you will see more of. Now, this could be a great advantage or a great disadvantage. If you focus on negativity and things that arouse your anger or arouse negative emotions on social media, you will see more of that. And if you focus on positive things, you will see more of that. I was talking to a buddy of mine who is extremely successful, and we were talking about how a lot of guys would be ashamed to show their feed to another person because the feed will be filled with nonsense, sports, half-naked girls. And I showed him my feed, and this dude is a multi-millionaire, and he was able to show me his feed. And all I saw on his feed was signals of wealth. Watches, beautiful homes, architecture, amazing places. And it was amazing that he could pull out his phone and I could see exactly what he focused on. The beautiful thing about social media is that it's not all negative. You can curate your feed by simply clicking on a button or clicking on a photo on Instagram and saying, show me less of this. You'll see less of that thing. And you could follow hashtags. You could follow the things that you are interested in and things that bring you value instead of arousing negative emotions. If you were to look at my feed, you'll see a lot of the cars that I want, places I want to travel, things I want to do. Matter of fact, you would think I was interested in men, the amount of guys you would see on my feed with six-packs. I'm obsessed with six-packs. I would want to always have a six-pack. Ever since I lost a bunch of weight, I've decided that I want to be 60 with a six-pack. And the algorithm knows what I'm focused on, so I see a lot of dudes with six-packs. That's the beautiful thing about this whole social media thing and all these distractions. You choose what you want to consume. If you feel like the stuff that is on your feed and the things that are constantly going through your phone and your YouTube algorithm, all these different things, then you could just change it. Change it to focus on the things that you want. And because you'll see more of what you want, then it's going to help to prime your brain to bring that stuff to you in real life. And this has also worked for me. A lot of the stuff that I follow on social media, a lot of my dreams ended up happening. For example, this year I ended up going to Rwanda, which is really called Rwanda in Africa, and I've been wanting to go to Africa. And I used to follow the pages, I still do. I followed the pages for Rwanda, and I was fascinated by this country, and then I ended up there, right? Take the distractions, flip them, and use them to your benefit by curating your algorithm to be your digital vision board. Now, Earl Nightingale also focused on something that you're gonna hear a lot when you listen to me or you watch me. He focused on goals. Goals are just irreplaceable and of the utmost importance when it comes to living the life that you want to live. A person without goals is like a ship without a destination. They just kind of float around, not going anywhere. Now think about it. Everything that we find entertaining is because it has a goal. When you go to the movies always start off with a problem, and then you get to the goal at the end of the movie. I'll use Avengers Endgame as an example. They hooked you in by showing the Hulk getting his ass whooped in the first scene. Then you went to calm and peace and whatnot, and then the problem starts to build back up, and then in the end, they kind of left you on a cliffhanger, but by the next movie, they had solved the problem, right? That was the goal. Defeating Thanos was the goal. In video games, you want to defeat the bad guy or win the race, right? In sports, teams want to win the championship. Everything that we find entertaining has a goal. It's extremely strange that most people don't have goals. The whole concept of goals may sound boring, it may sound mundane, but it's the most important thing you can do in your entire life. If it sounds boring, if it's difficult for you to set goals, then gamify your life. Look at it as a video game, as a game. What do you want to do? What is your final boss? What is the life that you want to live? Then you set those goals to get to that particular point. Now that's the core of the strangest secret. You become what you think about, and you need to have a destination. This will put you in the top 10% of people because most people never get to that point. Now you might ask, how can I apply this today? Well, I'll give you a couple steps. Step number 1, have a digital detox. We're constantly being influenced by our phones and TVs and the computers and the laptops. All these things are constantly influencing us and constantly has our brain working. Sometimes your brain just needs time to think. Most people don't think. Even before the invention of the internet and these computers and phones, people weren't thinking. Take time to think, even if it's 20 minutes a day. Give yourself a digital detox. Have conversations with your inner voice. Most of us don't even remember that we have an inner voice. But take that digital detox. Take time to see what profound insights you may get by listening to that voice in your head. Because that voice in your head usually has great ideas and usually isn't wrong. Trust me, it's liberating. It allows your mind to reset and refocus on what is essential. Number 2 is mindfulness practices, whether this is meditation, prayer, or journaling. Keep track of your thoughts. Take some time to focus your energy and focus your greatest asset, which is your mind and your focus, onto where you are right now and where you want to go. As I said, with so many distractions out there, you might forget what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go if you do not focus on it. Set aside some time daily to do some mindfulness practices. Journaling is excellent because as the days go by, you might forget certain events and certain thoughts you've had that are significant. By keeping track of these thoughts, you can always go back and see, wait a minute, I didn't do that, or wow, I can't believe I was thinking like this at this time. I've grown. Practice these things daily and you will see a massive benefit. And number 3, affirmations. It's funny that some people think affirmations are corny. And that's interesting because the most successful people believe in it 100%. The most important conversations you'll ever have are with yourself. What do you tell yourself? Do you tell yourself that you can't do it? Do you tell yourself that you're not good enough? You can change those conversations, and since your exterior matches your interior, when you change that internal dialogue, you can then change your exterior. So you can do it, and you are good enough. Tell yourself these things whether you believe it or not, and trust me, the media knows all about this. If you repeat a lie enough times, it could become the truth. Number 4 is to prime your mind with good information. Garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. Spend some time daily taking in some positive quotes. If you don't like reading, maybe you could watch a YouTube video. Maybe you could listen to a podcast. But something positive, something that's going to uplift your mind. Let's change what we put into our most valuable asset, which is our mind, and focus on setting aside these short times during the course of a day to prime ourselves for positivity and to prime ourselves for success. The more of this information that you take in, the better your life will become, simply because you are now changing your thoughts. And like we are focusing on in this particular podcast episode, is you become what you think about most of the time. It's imperative that you put great information into your mind consistently, especially to ward off some of the negativity that might seep in from sources such as the news and other negative outlets. Since I've been on my personal development journey, I've taken in hundreds of hours of audio and video about this particular subject, and I can tell you it works. I've accomplished almost every goal I set for myself, and my only regret is that I didn't set bigger goals. But the way that life works, I feel like I needed to get to this point in order to take that next leap. And you can do it too. Nobody's better than you. Nobody is smarter than you. If you can drive a car, you can learn any skill. This information has changed my life, and I hope that it will change yours too. This is our last movie. We don't get another shot at this. There's been 109 billion people to exist on this planet, and there's only been one you. You are so special. There's a 1 in 400 billion chances of you being born. The fact that you're here is a miracle. So I think it's best that we try to take advantage of this miracle, and the best way to do that is by taking full use of our greatest gift, our mind. Think big and think positive and chase those dreams with all you got. Thank you for tuning into the Quason Mosley podcast. If today's episode inspired you in any ways, please consider sharing it. Thank you very much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. I'll see you next time. Peace.